Good morning and grand rising. The theme for this whole year is open at the top. Staying open. And for this month, the theme is the fear and the furious. And I feel very empowered to face my fears right now. Today, in the presence of fear, is the topic. There's a Buddhist nun named Pema Chodron who has done incredible things to share very profound messages. She writes how to stay in spiritual awareness in the presence of fear. And this is what Pema Chodron writes. In meditation, we discover our inherent restlessness. Sometimes we get up and leave. All of us derive security and comfort from the imaginary world of memories, the imaginary world of fantasies, the imaginary world of plans. We really don't want to stay with the nakedness of our present experience. These are the times when gentleness and a sense of humor can give us the strength to settle down. So whenever we wander off, we gently encourage ourselves to stay and settle down. Stay. Are fear and loathing out of control? Stay. Aching knees and throbbing back? Stay. That is how to cultivate steadfastness in the face of fear. I invite you to affirm with me this statement, claim it for yourself, feel it for yourself. I meet fear with curiosity, compassion, and courage. Please join me to welcome Reverend Dr. Kathleen with more of this important message.
Thank you so much.
You want this here?
No, I'm going to stand over here so it doesn't matter. Thank you so much, Karen. I love how Karen reads with such deep meaning and gives us some time to really focus, and she knows when to repeat things too. I really love that. Thank you, Karen. It's beautiful. Yes, this idea of how do we show up in the presence of fear. And I love this idea from Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. She encourages us to stay and settle down, to tell ourselves gently, stay and settle down, a way to keep ourselves in that state of meditation instead of wandering off like, our list of things to do for the day or whatever. Stay and settle down. So if we stay with fear and settle down and cultivate spiritual awareness, so there's a context, the greater context of who we are, able to observe this thing called fear, then amazing things can happen. Believe it or not, amazing things can happen. That's what we're going to be delving into today, exploring today. And as a result of our courage to do this, we are participating in our spiritual growth. We're participating in our spiritual unfoldment. So I want to begin with the idea of fear as a call of faith. So I'm going to go back to some scriptures, a very well-known story. This is in the book of Hebrew, chapter 11, verse 7. And listen to this, it's one short sentence, but contains so much. By faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not seen, and we know what the things not seen he was warned of, right? What is it? A flood, yeah. And moved by godly fear, oh listen, they call it godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household. There's a lot really packed into that little sentence, that little passage. Because Noah has faith in the divine warning of the flood, yes, he feels fear. I mean, it's human to feel fear when you're hearing that the place is going to flood. He uses that fear, though, for courageous action. He uses it for courageous action, to care for his family, in service of love. And in the science of mind, our teachings, like Noah, we don't deny or ignore fear. Instead, we learn to stay with it and let spiritual awareness inform us as to what is ours to do. Ernest Holmes has a way of describing fear. He says fear is misplaced faith. It's energy being ready to transmute into faith. We can use it in service of a deeper faith in a divine presence that is for us, a divine presence that is the presence of love, therefore, and that we as divine beings are available, can be available for divine guidance, perfect solution to move us into inspired action instead of scared action. So that's the beautiful thing about fear. Rather than run from it, we can use it as part of our spiritual path of growth. So ours to do then may be to investigate, in fact, I highly recommend to investigate with spiritual awareness the thoughts and beliefs that are behind the fear itself. Because fear doesn't just appear out of nowhere. There is a perspective or thoughts beneath it. Now, I have to say, yes, if something dangerous, comes up, we're wired to go into a state of fear and to take action. So I don't want to denigrate that at all. That's a perfect design that keeps us safe. But then it's what we do with that reaction, and the thoughts behind it that move us into action that can be supportive, that can save us, save our loved ones, whatever it might be. So investigating the thoughts and the beliefs behind the fear, very important with spiritual awareness. So fear then can point to ways that we have invested our faith in limiting beliefs. Because we get to invest that faith in a lot of different kinds of things. Do we have faith that the world is falling apart and there's nothing we can do about it? Or do we put our faith in knowing that there is a greater power and presence than us, that we are a very, very much an extension, an expression of, and that we have access, and the wisdom, the infinite possibilities that we have access to? So the objective then is not to eradicate fear, but to maintain spiritual awareness and then let spirit move us into action, whether it's shifting our beliefs or physical action in the world. Fear is a call to faith. Next, compassion and courage in the face of fear. Well, I am going to go right to a very famous story, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and the role of the Cowardly Lion. There's so much that we can learn from that, just that piece of it. The Cowardly Lion has the belief that because he feels fear, then he must be coward. He's made up that decision. And so he goes through life thinking that he has no courage and that he's weak and all of these ideas he has about himself. However, when I can't remember what they're called, but the beasts, the flying monkeys, start attacking him and his friends, something rises up within him. Love for his friends, courage, the courage to stand up to those flying monkeys and chase them away, saving his friends. So when they go back to Oz, the Wizard of Oz informs him that there is no living creature on earth that would not be afraid in the face of danger. Again, that's the way we're wired. The difference is that in that moment, the so-called cowardly lion chose love instead of fear. I should say love in the face of fear. In the presence of fear, he chose love. He chose to be courageous. So facing our fear then is an awareness that fear can be a wise teacher. Now, you may have never heard that before, all right? It's like usually it's run from fear and get into courage as quick as possible. But, again, if we resist it, remember what we resist persists. If we resist our feelings and don't investigate them, then they can get submerged and cause all kinds of issues mentally, emotionally, and physically. So courage, acting courageously in the face of fear. Choosing love. In the newsletter greeting this past week, I put a quote in there from Lao Tzu, the Taoist, the originator of the Tao. And he was talking about how water, encouraging us to be like water. Water is soft. It's soft and fluid, and it can wear down very hard things like rocks over time. And so he is encouraging us to be soft like water, and therefore we can use that with fear. So being soft with fear, being soft with that, being compassionate with ourselves or compassionate with others when they're in a state of fear. What will happen then is it'll begin to soften our hearts and make them available for wisdom, for divine wisdom and inner strength and great courage. Being soft instead of hard. Softening the hard places. And the hard places, I think, in terms of how we can end up guarding our hearts because of past experiences, that compassion with ourselves and with our fear can help us to soften our hearts and open our hearts and be available. So by compassionately, the idea is to stop seeing fear as a threat and start seeing it as a part of being human. A part of being human, embracing our humanity. And so what we learn to do then when we are co-creating community is that if we are like the water and soften our hearts, it creates an atmosphere of safety, of empathy, a place where sacred listening can take place. That becomes the norm for us. And that's what we're very actively doing in our classes, in our circles, in our workshops, in our Sunday services, is cultivating this beautiful atmosphere of safety and empathy and sacred listening. So therefore, we're allowing wisdom, strength, and divine right action to take place. So again, that's compassion and courage in the face of fear. Finally, fear invites creativity and connection. Isn't that interesting? You think it would be the opposite, but again, we're approaching it with spiritual awareness. So think about it. Oh, there's this beautiful quote I want to do first from Ernest Holmes. It's in something called The Contagion of Fear. He says, "I believe that the divine mind, present everywhere, is free from all fear. And if we can tune into the fearful thoughts of others and be affected by them, we can learn to tune into the mind of God and be free from fear." We can learn to tune into the mind of God. That's what the spiritual awareness thing is that I'm talking about. It's switching channels, switching and tuning into, like a radio, tuning into the channel of the divine, the mind of the divine. So we have a choice. We have a choice to tune in to the collective fear that's being perpetuated in our media, whether it's TV or social media. We can tune into that and become paralyzed or feel like there's not much we can do. Or in the midst of that, we can tune in to divine mind and open ourselves to creative ideas and possibilities, new possibilities of what it is that we can do, what is ours to do for creative action. So how do we cultivate this spiritual awareness? Meditation and spiritual mind treatment, believe me. I kind of feel like I get prepared for these talks sometimes overnight. I had a really hard time sleeping last night, and there were worry thoughts that were going through my mind. And I mean, it was a great opportunity to practice what I've been going through, in preparing for this talk. And so I did the deep breathing. I did the settle down part, and the stay and settle down. I listened to meditation tapes, and so finally, by I don't know what it was, 2:00 in the morning, I got up and I went up to my room where I had some paper and pencil, and this is what I do, and it would have been a good idea to do this earlier. I sat down, and to keep myself focused, I wrote out a spiritual mind treatment for myself. It was like 2 or 3 pages long, because I really wanted to get myself refocused and centered in the spiritual truth to calm my system down. And it did. I finally went back to sleep, and then when 7:15 came along, Dan's like, "Get up," and it's like, no, I don't want to get up. I'm sleeping, and I'm enjoying this. So I went to sleep immediately after the spiritual mind treatment. The technology, the spiritual technology, this form of prayer that we teach is so powerful. I could tell you of multiple times when I've done that for myself. I mean, I have prayer partners and stuff, which is so powerful, but if I find myself caught in the presence of fear and it's not resolving easily, spiritual mind treatment takes care of it, because it brings me back to my spiritual truth, the spiritual truth of all life, and then brings me back to a state of inner peace. So fear invites creativity and connection. Let's continue on with this idea that divine mind becomes fertile ground for innovation, creative innovation, and authentic connection. So when we bravely face our fears as a spiritual community, we have the opportunity then to offer a compassionate atmosphere in which not only authentic communication takes place, but creative innovation, new ideas, new possibilities. So then what happens is when we transmute fear into faith, we can unite, energize each other, and embolden each other to meet the challenges at hand. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, so let's practice. Let's practice it. We're continuing to build a more resilient spiritual community, a more motivated spiritual community that's motivated by all these wonderful values that are on the back of our cards. So the value that I'm focusing on today is community, also love. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but the key is that we are here to live these values together and to strengthen ourselves in being not only being vulnerable but also having courage to move forward. So let's practice. What I'd like you to do is name a fear that you have, whether it's fear of something in your personal life, fear of what's going on in our country, fear of what's going on in the world, whatever it might be. Remember, it's natural when there's danger to feel fear. So just notice what that is. And then please speak with somebody that you don't normally speak with, even if you have to move. Find somebody different to talk with and share with them, if you would, name that fear and with the intention of unlocking new possibilities. So you might even have new possibilities that come up. So the fear that you have and any new possibilities. And then when the other person finishes their sharing, just simply say, thank you for sharing. There's no need to give advice or anything like that. Thank you for sharing. Okay? So find somebody new to share with. Remember to include new possibilities. New possibilities. Does anybody need more time? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, let's bring it to completion. So let me just summarize this a bit. Fear is not a spiritual failure. It's part of the path. And so we can use everything, even our emotions, in service to our spiritual path. So we don't run from fear. We stand in it, sit in it, allow it to inform us what beliefs are behind, what's going on, what actions are being called for, developing a spiritual awareness as the context around in which the fear takes place. And therefore, we awaken compassion, we build courage, and we ultimately redirect ourselves back to the source, the presence, the divine presence of who we are, our divine nature, our divine connection with Spirit. And so it is. Thank you, everybody.